Good morning to you.
I hope you're well.
Yes, very well.
Okay. Um, if you could kindly reposition, the connection is a bit sketchy, so you're not too clear. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Let's hope that it gets better as we proceed.
Well,
Um,
I'm out of town, so the
oh,
reception is not
the
very
the
good.
reception is not okay. We'll have to manage, I guess. Yesterday, did you have the chance to monitor the Lands and Natural Resources Minister appear before the committee?
Yes, I did.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
How would you rate how he fared with regard to knowledge in the sector and plans to deal with some of the pressing issues in the sector?
Okay, so I think, yes, I listened to the minister designate, Honorable Boa, and for me, I must say that I was impressed with him as a person because even before being elected as an MP, he was very actively engaging in advocacy against Galamsey within the Mbele state. And I saw how impactful he was with mobilizing communities to really address issues of water pollution and the destruction and displacement of cocoa farmers within that area. So, I mean, he being nominated was not too surprising because he has the experience, he knows what the situation is, he's confronted within his constituency. So, listening to him in terms of, I mean, not wanting to rate him per se in terms of his knowledge, but more in terms of what he said and the issues that we are confronted with, I think that yes, to a certain extent, he was able to, I mean, bring some assurances in relation to matters of and the commitment of the government to review LI 246.2, which has been one key issue on the burner for civil society in the past years, and even a matter for which we engaged the previous administration extensively. So we're really looking forward to some commitments from the new administration on what they were going to do about that particular airline. Also coming on the fact that they themselves committed to revoke that airline or review that airline should they win power prior to the 2024 December 7th election. So it was really good to hear him reassure us that they are going to review the airline, and which for us is very positive. Again, we're happy to hear how they said they were going to commit to the fight against Galamsey, even though I must say we didn't get any assurances as to the timeline when they were going to hit the road running and all of that, because as we know, there's already a lot of illegalities and some, I would say, confrontational takeovers happening across the country. And also with illegal mining activity escalating. Even yesterday, we reported on some groups purporting to belonging to the party in power now, who had taken siege in portions of the Atwa forest around the Kwabi area. And this is the kind of impunity we are seeing across the country, where a lot of people are taking over existing concessions and they are negotiating and substituting the workers who are there. These are issues that connect to the Galamsey issue, which, as we saw, took almost a large part of the questioning and also the feedback that the Honorable Minister Designate had to respond to. So for me, I'll say there's a lot of work still to be done, because when we talk about Galamsey, it is not the issue of recategorization, as he stated, that will solve the problem. We have issues with compliance and enforcement. We have issues with political interference in the work of technical officers. We even have issues with some sort of political dilution of the work of some of the state agencies responsible for our natural resource management when it comes to lands, when it comes to forestry sector, when it comes to mineral governance sector as well. So these are all areas that, were mentioned and things that we think that the new administration should pay attention to, and rather than the rate categorization that they said they would do when it comes to the mining sector. I also heard about how they intend to sustain the river guards who were trained by the previous administration. Like you said, the new government still wants to continue to support this, which I think is a bad idea, because if you look at the fact that almost every river in this community flows through a community with plenty people living and depending on these rivers. So if anybody has to take care of these rivers, then it's a matter of empowering these communities, giving heed to their voices and listening to them. So most of the time when communities complain about illegalities affecting their natural resources, be it forest reserves, be it community water service and all of that, nobody pays attention to them, and the police even doesn't take their issues very seriously. So a lot of their cases go unanswered or unaddressed. So this leads to some sort of escalation of water pollution and distraction that we've seen a lot of the miners engaging in, with all the law enforcement agencies just sitting and watching. I think if we really want to address Galamsey issues, it is not really about whether we set up and support river guards or not. It's about empowering the very communities that live on the land from day to day and really depend on it. Until we do that, no top-down approach will make this work. So I think, I know he responded a lot on issues of the broader general in terms of management of our lands and forests in the scope of climate change. They did talk about their commitment to also restore the land and also restore our rivers as was indicated in their manifesto. So for me, it's about we getting to see them take these things and work with them. There were no clear timelines as to when any of these things would be done, and that was my greatest disappointment. So it doesn't really let you know when you should expect some milestones or some outcomes from all the details that he did say.
So even though you find his general performance impressive, there are certain specifics you thought that you didn't really get clear responses to, and some of the proposals also made to address some of these challenges are not ones that would work, like the river guards, for instance.
Yes, I think we missed a lot on specifics. A lot of it, the response was still very much generalized, and some of the things you already know. And I said that I'm particularly happy about his person and his commitment already from what I know of him and what he's done before in his own constituency. And so for that, I see that he brings a strong personality, some motivation and dedication to that. But you know how politics and how these things can shape you over time. I hope it doesn't get swamped up in all of that, and he's able to really do the work that he set himself up to do. Otherwise, and I think that maybe going forward also when he takes office and he gets to see that the scope of the challenges, then he will know that, look, we need to really set some timelines and really work towards some goals and not to leave it in broad scopes as was done yesterday.
Speaking of some of these takeovers that we are being told of, in the immediate term, what do you expect the government to be doing? Well, the minister is yet to be sworn in, but in the immediate term, what can be done to address this particular issue?
Yes, I think we've seen that the presidency, the executive already taking steps to address a lot of issues that the country is confronted with. I mean, they rose up to the challenge of dealing with the issues of electricity, the power crisis that was almost unleashed upon us. And then there's also been issues with the conflict in Baku. I mean, he's really intervened in several issues. But so it has been very surprising for us that, I mean, since he took office, the executive has been practically silent and watching the impunity, the takeovers, the sieges and all of that to continue with no word at all. I mean, the executive has so much power, they can come out with a statement of cease and desist to prohibit and also to put everybody on their leg that we are watching, we are not getting out of it, even though we are yet forming our government, we are yet to swear in the Minister of Lands and all of that. When everything begins, the executive can still take certain bold steps to let people know that this is going to be our policy and posture on Galamsey, and we're not going to let anybody off the hook. But I think we've seen the silence of the presidency whilst all these things are happening. The only time we heard him talk was when there was this fatality at Obuasi, and I think that it's not enough speaking to just that issue. He needs to speak to the broader impunity and escalation of illegal activities spreading across the country, all on the back of Galamsey and some takeovers. People think that their government is in power, so they must really now replace those people who used to work on site. Until we do that, I think it's not going to work. And we need to give the new incoming minister a platform for him to really engage and enter and forcefully, decisively also take charge. But if they are silent, it makes it very difficult for him to really get the ground running.
And one of the things the minister did also say is that there's a need for mining licenses to be, reviewed. The licensing regime, he's talking about it being reviewed comprehensively, and he cites, for instance, the issues relating to individuals exploiting small-scale mining classification. He says in some instances people are holding as much as 50 licenses, yet they are applying as small scale miners, and the number of 50, like that 50 number, actually qualifies them as large scale miners. Do you agree that there ought to be a comprehensive review of the licensing regime as well?
Yes, most certainly. I think for that one, we didn't expect anything less from him, because we have seen how the previous administration and government have abused the mining regime, the licensing regime, where people who don't even have any experience, who don't qualify, are given permits and concessions just because they are connected to the ruling government, they are politically exposed. We saw, you could call the last year's, the fourth exit expose on how the government gave out mining concessions and forest reserves to people who are connected to their government. And that in itself alone requires that almost all the mining concessions needs to be reviewed to ensure that there is sanity in the system. I mean, there's a lot of abuses where people have licenses, small scale. If you go to the ground, the things they are doing, how they are even mining, the procedures, the processes, even the scale of their impact is more than the area that they are supposed to be mining. And there are people who also are even walking about with fake licenses. All of these things require really some very critical forensic review and analysis. So I think that it's very necessary, and to that we completely agree with him, and we are ready to really support the process. Yeah.
All right. Any further expectations of him, as he's expected to be sworn in soon?
Well, I think he was very clear about his commitment to do Galamsey, even alluding to the failure of the previous government in dealing with Galamsey, which we agree with him. That alone should let you know that there's a big challenge and there's a lot of expectation from the part of Ghanaians, and we are all going to hold him to the commitment he's made today. So he made yesterday, and also to the manifesto of the government that is in power. So I believe that it's all a matter of we committing to supporting him and all of that. And also where we realize that he's not working as he should, we shouldn't also be afraid to really call him to order. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. We're grateful that you were able to speak to us.
Yes, thank you very much as well. Thank you.
You had to speak to Daryl Bosu. He is the Deputy National Director of Operations, Arusha, Ghana. It's still the Morning Star here on Star 103.5 FM. We'll go for a break. When we return, we'll bring you a conversation in relation to the Africa Prosperity Dialogue coming up on the 30th of January.